The Illusion of Us, Chapter 5, The Evolution of Consciousness. What is an idea and where does it come from? Throughout human history, an intellectual breakthrough will often occur with a unique individual whose effects will ripple out and change the very fabric of our comprehension for what is possible. These brilliant minds, like Newton or Einstein, provided tremendous leaps forward for us as a species. These great breakthroughs rapidly change the stagnant momentum of the public and rewrite history. It only takes a small handful of these gifted individuals among billions of people on planet Earth to ultimately be responsible for leading all of society forward. With every new generation comes the inherent ability for an expanded awareness of the outside world and an increased acceptance of all of humanity itself, regardless of race. Building upon this increased awareness and acceptance, these important social values will be handed down to the next generation of children who truly represent the key to the future during this sweeping revolution of conscious change. But are we really coming up with these integral ideas merely on our own? We must return to the original question at hand and examine where an idea really comes from. If we are merely organic bodies that house our true energy within consciousness, then we must separate random synapses in the brain for being the only source of new ideas. Since human beings are mostly water-based and function off of electrical currents which utilize various frequencies, then we must re-evaluate our unique identity and stop allowing ourselves to become distracted by that which means to disconnect us. If you were to try and define the human species and the potentials available in an enlightened state, it would resemble an energetic antenna for tremendous information which can create powerful mental abilities. As we become more aware and healthier, our vibration rises, along with our capacity for information to be received. This multi-step process of expanding consciousness and having the ability of receiving high amounts of information is what drives our evolution as a species. But what information are we tapping into, and how could that even be possible? These are the questions we must ask and search for the true answers. Light is the transmitter of all information and provider for most of life in the universe. The primary creators of light are suns found within each solar system. When I refer to an interconnected universe and one which follows a precise mathematical formula in its incredible design, I speak of a plan which seeks to become aware all along. Found hidden inside our brains with the activation of the pineal gland, humans are able to connect to this ancient knowledge center of truth, calling to us with increasing intensity as we continue to accelerate our own evolution. These records, which propel our own expansion, have been called the Akashic Records and have been spoken about by ancient spiritual cultures for thousands of years. This truth we seek is not found through chaos, but in uniform lessons and ideas, all feeding to the same outcome. We must simply step outside and feel the warmth of the sun's rays and allow them to peel away the veil which holds back our conscious expansion. The most incredible part in this entire story of us are those who seek to hold back our awareness and evolution, while at the same time being countered by humanity's increasing need for expansion. This battle of light over darkness has been occurring in the universe for millions of years. We are nearing the conclusion of that long-fought battle now, when the children of the Source itself rise up and take back what has been their purpose all along. Humanity holds within itself the divine spark which propels everything in the universe. All of the violence and submission of our free will has been an attempt to extinguish the sacred spark all along. The agenda for millennia has been to block us from remembering our true identity and remain asleep for all of time. What hope would we have here, seemingly alone, put up against such insurmountable odds? That hidden identity to humanity is why so much has been sacrificed here on this planet and held back from us discovering. This entire illusion of us all stems from the original jealousy over who we really are and the severe objection from the fallen Lucifer and his loyal angels. We must decipher if these are merely just stories or teachings aimed at conveying the design for duality itself. Once we wake up to this injustice of our consciousness, we will finally be able to take back our own future. There's no questioning the fact that humanity has been enslaved and held back for thousands of years with the illusion of a false identity controlling our every action. The most fascinating aspect of this for me is the notion that our own expedited evolution is perhaps being assisted from those who believe in the survival and freedom of the human race. There are many advanced cultures from all over the stars that couldn't bear to simply stand by and helplessly watch the enslavement of the human race. These original planners of the living library on Earth represented the ancient alliances which protected the uninterrupted development of the human species. These were the forgotten guardians of this planet and those who fight for the preservation of free will and truth in the universe. These peaceful interstellar races are greatly interested in the outcome of humanity and the breaking free of enslavement from those who bind us. When you begin to realize the monumental scope of everything happening around our planet, it begins to sound very similar to the premise of a Star Wars movie. Perhaps that is the point all along. Hidden inside cleverly designed movies, games, and books, these similarities speak to those who were consciously aware and looking for answers. We must draw conclusions for where the inspiration for so many of these science fiction ideas derived from originally. The underlying message is that most elaborate stories and those with hidden symbology are almost always based on something real. When you start looking for these connections or repetitive themes, you realize that they are everywhere, all around us. All that stands in the way of this discovery for most people is the disbelief within themselves that anything can be connected. Once this false illusion is removed, nothing will stand in the way of conscious expansion. The number one reason why humanity as a whole has not connected to this deeper spiritual side, which follows these important correlated symbols, is due to our own ego blocking us off. Of all the human traits which cause us such a disconnection from ourselves, ego is by far the most destructive. What ego does that is so dangerous to the expansion of humanity is that it manifests the false idea of our greatness simply based on what our minor achievements have been in the past. This measurement of our identity based on our accomplishments, which is widely promoted through material possession and the worship of idols, has forced society to lose almost all sense of true self. These distractions bombard us from every direction and seek to have us finally forget once and for all. The hidden symbols that surround us all the time separate out the truth and what is actually real, with what has been created in our mind as an illusion to distract us. By reconnecting with planet Earth and deciphering the meanings behind these ancient teachings, we will suddenly understand so much of what has been hiding in plain sight all along. The many advanced races who wish to see the growth of our consciousness use these symbols and hidden messages as a means of communicating important ideas that can propel us forward at critical junctions. Even consciousness itself from within a human being cannot be necessarily limited to just the origins of Earth. We must strongly consider the idea that certain people here are literally extraterrestrial consciousness sent back from another time in order to make a difference. These unique people are assumed by the masses to just be human, even though deep down inside they have always known a truth that was bubbling just below the surface. That truth is the fact that consciousness is far more limited to only the human species. So much of the future of Earth could come down to a mere handful of these dedicated and passionate souls. The outcome of humanity on Earth may have a profound rippling effect on the entire universe itself. Here we are, at this critical juncture in human evolution, teetering on the very brink of our own mutual destruction and racing towards a future which lies within our own immature, shaky hands. Within a population of over 7 billion people on the planet, there are millions who are waking up to these truths of our life. This explosion of our conscious expansion is largely due to the availability of connecting with like-minded individuals and reliable sources of information. The stunning thing about this transformation is that most of this information is coming from the collective of humanity itself. As we share knowledge across every corner of our globe, we have become a connected online society and are breaking free of all forms of suppression. Each person then empowers themselves to become an influential tool for spreading information. As this information spreads out and more people continue to wake up to the truths of their existence here, they begin to see through the lies and manipulation that bombard us constantly. Awakened people start to block these distractions out of their lives and take the reins of their own destiny. These individuals re-examine everything in their life and often make dramatic, life-altering decisions based on this newfound sense of direction. The beautiful thing about this life we are living is how we can change so profoundly and quickly with the right environment and encouragement. Nothing that happens in our past should ever discourage what we can be in the future. The only thing that dictates future events is the moment you are in right now. Once we make the crucial decision inside our mind to change, it can take what seems like only a moment to begin down the right path. That path is something all of us should consciously decide to take, for it leads to the very expansion of everything in our life. By absorbing, stimulating information that challenges our mind, we push the limits of our own comprehension. By arriving at this state of total amazement over a new idea never before pondered, the brain breaks free of the chains of its previous limitations to its own awareness. The secret behind conscious expansion is in the very word expansion itself. By enlarging the perspective for the world around us, it forces our conscious evolution. That is all evolution is at its heart, the physical or mental growth of a species, which enhances it. We must stop looking at evolution through the lens of simply physical attributes. Whereas physical evolution may take millions of years, conscious evolution can occur dramatically in a very short period of time. Ignorance may seem like bliss to many people right now, but that is only because it is one of the last safe refuges for our emotions. By ignoring that which instills fear and pulls down happiness, it can be a temporary island of peace. But this island is not meant to stay on forever, for if too many decide to live there, our future will simply sink away from all around us. Ignorance creates a world where humanity wears a permanent blindfold to the horrible atrocities eating away at our very freedoms and destroying our home. By the time we decide we are ready to remove these blindfolds and see the truth, it may already be too late. We must learn to balance our intake of truthful information versus knowing when to block out that which takes from our well-being and drains our emotional side. Conscious expansion forms new ideas in the brain through passion and excitement, allowing the connected neurons to fuse together inside until all of a sudden you realize you understand yet another piece of the puzzle. If you were able to move beyond the decisions we have made in the past without guilt, we can realize that all that is left to life is experience and learning. All of the careless mistakes we have made, success we have achieved, or relationships we have formed all play a key part of our story and the experience we are having. The world has been perceived to us as a hostile and barbaric place, largely by the influences of the mainstream media. As we have increased our access to technology and social media, we have begun to see the cracks in these lies. So many have simply canceled their cable subscriptions and found much more happiness once again because of it. Their lives are no longer dominated by fear and hate and instead project a much different reality. Over time, more and more have realized this and have found a deep happiness they never knew existed. Humanity has become a global community that is more connected than at any other time in our history. All of the great minds and sacrifices made by so many brave individuals contribute to the overall narrative of humanity. Carl Sagan eloquently said, "Look again at that blue dot. That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you have ever heard of, every human being who ever was, lived out their lives. The aggregate of our joy and suffering, thousands of confident religions, ideologies, and economic doctrines, every hunter and forger, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilization, every king and peasant, every young couple in love, every mother and father, hopeful child, inventor and explorer, every teacher of morals, every corrupt politician, every superstar, every supreme leader, every saint and sinner in the history of our species lived there on a mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam." Carl Sagan not only expanded our awareness of space, but he was able to even alter our perceptions of ourselves as well. The contributions to our conscious expansion made by Sagan and so many other gifted minds will echo in eternity for their essential role in our own success. The precise design woven into the progression and evolution of humanity is simply beautiful and humbling to observe if you are able to see how all the pieces fit together. The global collective is quickly realizing the illusions behind fear and the essential need for dismantling the military-industrial complex. Humans are now traveling to most of the countries on Earth for either business or leisure and spreading their perspectives and knowledge to all parts of society. This cultural infusion of ideas, compounded by the expansions brought on by the Internet, has led to the runaway conscious awakening for all of humanity. The notable exceptions for this interconnected society lie within countries like North Korea, Iraq, and Syria, where a perpetual cycle of warfare or tyranny has plagued the poor people of the region for decades. These countries are then portrayed in the spotlight of the media in order to show instability and create fear, to instill the illusion of a dangerous world. As society yearns to satisfy its increasing desire for peace and love building within, no longer will humanity accept this enslavement through fear, instigated through perpetual warfare that has gripped us for so long. This profound change can be clearly seen in the dramatic transformation of politics around the world. This global revolution has swept through countless dictators and monarchies, like an enormous tidal wave of conscious change for all of humanity. The old forms of government, which have controlled society for so long through the use of tyranny and fear, are quickly being replaced by those who seek peace, compassion, and feel a responsibility in protecting the future. A fascinating aspect of this global revolution of consciousness to consider are the fundamental changes within humanity which have directly led to this intriguing outcome. The best metaphor for describing our current state of expansion is from the vantage point of a simmering pot of water on a hot stove. The pot represents the control and suppression of human conscious expansion, with the simmering water inside that of society. No matter how tight the lid is held on the pot, eventually the water will boil over and spill everywhere. The underlying truth is that the water inside the pot was never meant to be contained in the first place. This spilling out, or revolution of truth, encapsulates every human being on the planet. Driven by our increasingly connected world, the collective of humanity itself is speeding towards a profound awakening. Moving at almost the speed of light, so much is changing so fast that many of the leaders of the old guard are left simply scratching their heads in confusion. The Earth is still considered a Class 0 planet, according to the brilliant professor Michio Kaku, and it isn't hard to see when looking at our culture from the point of an objective observer. We still have a long way to go before we can claim the title of a peaceful Class 1 planet. The biggest challenge for the human species will be realizing the need to protect the planet we call home for a future that can sustain us. By reconnecting with Gaia, the embodiment of our planet, a strong relationship can be made with the Earth to allow us to remember what we have forgotten so long ago. The wise ancients of the past knew how intrinsically important this connection was to the growth of the soul. Instead of looking purely outward to propel humanity's expansion, we must first start by looking right under our feet. By understanding this planet and our purpose here, we can begin to move away from the dark days of the past and instead look only towards the future. There is no escaping this evolution of humanity, for it is written into the framework of the cosmos itself. Prophesied by the Mayans thousands of years ago, this new age is a period when darkness no longer rules this planet, and balance will seek itself out in every ray of cosmic light that spreads across this vast universe. All of life itself is merely the dream of endless creation and death coming to a dramatic and beautiful conclusion. There is nothing to fear with death, as it is always followed by rebirth. The true human identity is not found by looking externally at the physical body, but through the perspective of energy and consciousness. Our multidimensional consciousness is what ultimately defines our existence here. It is who we really are on the deepest level, and by using this physical body, we are able to experience the three-dimensional world. When we die, we are reborn into a new body to learn from the mistakes of the past. Fear, stemming from the lack of our own identity, is the clever illusion that has bound us for so long. In redefining the human species, we must crack open the walls of Darwin's cave in order to finally see the truth in ourselves. Every day that we open our eyes, there is a new chance at infinite possibilities to occur. There is a wave of conscious change that has swept across the globe, awakening the masses. It can be felt in the changing perspectives of how we define ourselves, even if we aren't aware of it at the time. This advancement of all technology influencing every part of our society has finally formed a global collective consciousness. This giant leap forward has been propelled by the invention of the Internet, followed by social media on nearly every portable device. Suddenly, we have all become interconnected and are able to interact with other people anywhere in the world. It became a global consciousness aware of itself and evolving from within. Like the butterfly effect, our very actions have led to an alternate reality where we are choosing peace over prescribed war. Without these technological advances, none of us would still be here. To understand this conscious evolution from the perspective of modern science, quantum physics, and specifically string theory, give us a glimpse into the incredible mechanics behind this finite universe. They show the intricate designs behind this holographic universe, made up of almost infinite strings of information vibrating at various frequencies. All matter is determined by its unique vibrational structure. This gets to the very core of the duality of the universe itself. This fluctuation of vibration and frequency is what drives all evolution. The laws of nature following a complex code which designed the stage for all of matter. A finely tuned universe so precise that a simple fraction of a difference and none of it would have existed at all. These are the telltale signs left behind of a forgotten master architect, expressing itself in the grand theater of life. William Shakespeare once brilliantly wrote, "All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances. And one man in his time plays many parts, his acts being 7 ages." This coming of the golden age in our solar system, or awakening, is the accelerated evolution of humanity. This awakening simply can't be delayed any longer as society on Earth transitions into the age of Aquarius. The more this human collective is held back, the larger the leaps are down the line. This river of expansion with its countless dams at every turn refuses to slow down, for its momentum has been written into the story of the river itself all along. William Blake once wrote, "If the doors of perception were cleansed, everything would appear to man as it is, infinite." When looking at human progression and the appalling means for which our growth has been delayed, the inevitable conclusion may seem simple on the surface until you peel back the cleverly hidden teachings of duality that rule the universe. The cumulative aftermath of the slumbering of consciousness in humanity for so long will ultimately lead its own evolution on a monumentally fast level. When one starts to understand the connections of everything in the universe and the intimate role that every living creature plays, they realize that for this duality to truly work, there must also exist a darker side which is able to counter the light and bring harmony to a perfect system of growth. If evil didn't exist, there would be no lessons to define what good really is. Everything is happening precisely as it should, at the exact moment it needs to. We must understand that because of the darkness, there can be light. This is what duality represents at its heart and core in the never-ending search for balance, hidden within the mirage of chaos. If humanity is able to sincerely learn from the mistakes of their past, there will be nothing stopping their infinite future. This solution is found hidden amidst the delicate dance between the two pieces of the same energy which combine to make up the whole. It is at that moment when you realize the answers have been staring at us in the face all along, found in common symbols like the yin-yang, that have been patiently waiting for the right time when they can be understood. The divine gifts that the human species have are finally being revealed as we wipe away the grogginess of our misunderstood identity. We are the windows that perceive the universe itself and record its story for all of time. From every tragedy to the most beautiful moments of love and humble amazement, every unique experience we have directly leads back to the source of all life itself. We are all playing an important part in shaping the very story of humanity. Know that at any time you feel lonely or lost, there is always compassionate wisdom to be found by searching within and discovering your own divine truths. Like tiny fragments of light flickering in a sea of darkness, it only takes a small amount of courage to truly see. And that concludes the reading of The Illusion of Us, The Suppression and Evolution of Human Consciousness by Matthew LaCroix. Thank you for joining me on this journey, and peace and blessings to you all.